So hi, this is Jim from Trek World, and you may have thought that Mego only made Star Trek action figures. Well, boy, do we have a treat in store for you today. Mego produced several electronic toys in the 1970s, some of which I'm sure you'll recognize, and some maybe not so much. Before we get started with the video in general, I really want to give some credit where credit is due. Of all of the research I've ever done on Star Trek video materials, I have never encountered so many keepers of the lore as I have when researching Mego toys. The fandom around Mego is one of the most curated repositories I have ever seen. There are so many websites, forums, channels, photos, groups, videos, that the challenge is not finding material. The challenge was in figuring out what to pick and choose that would allow me to tell the story best. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank these three sites for being the standard bearers of all things Mego. Without them, this video would have been a much different video. In 1974, the world of Star Trek toys saw an exciting development with the release of the Mego Star Trek communicators.
Kevin, this is Scott. Kevin, this is Scott. Do you hear me? Over and out.
The Star Trek communicators with push-to-talk button.
Scott, this is Kevin. My bike is broken. Can you help me? Over. Yes, but send me a signal so I can find you.
Star Trek communicators with a range of 1,300 feet. Push button, twin warp sound, uses 1 9-volt battery, not included. Star Trek communicators with belt hook, telescoping antenna, and twin warp sound from Mego.
These toys, produced by the American toy company Mego Corporation, were a significant milestone in the realm of licensed playthings. The set, licensed by Paramount Pictures, contained 2 handheld walkie-talkies inspired by the communicators of the USS Enterprise crew from Star Trek. The design maintained essential features of the TV show devices, including an antenna grid, a flip-up cover, and a tuning dial. The standout feature of these toys was their walkie-talkie functionality. Employing a simple push-to-talk mechanism, these communicators allowed children to immerse themselves in role-play scenarios as their favorite Star Trek characters. Mego's approach to Star Trek toys was very different than from what other companies would be in the afterwards. Everything Mego did was designed to allow the child to immerse themselves in the fiction. You didn't just play with Mego toys. You used Mego toys to allow you to pretend to be in Star Trek. Now, in addition, the Mego communicators were among the very first Star Trek toys to incorporate sound effects. In this particular case, a bleeping sound initiated by a button press. Now, although the sound was by no means an exact replica from the show, it was still an innovative addition. At the same time, the Mego Star Trek communicators were released alongside a range of 8-inch Star Trek action figures and an iconic USS Enterprise playset. We've done videos on both. Please be sure to check them out on our channel. 3 years later, in 1977, Mego released the exact same devices, but re-themed for the television series Batman. They were called Batcoders. Also in that first year of 1974, the Mego Corporation released a one-of-a-kind creation for Star Trek aficionados, the Star Trek Communications Console.
Let's contact Steve. Check.
It's the Star Trek Command Communications Console for use with a Star Trek communicator sold separately. Each uses 1 9-volt battery, not included. The Command Communications Console has a multicolor phaser light screen. You can broadcast up to 1,300 feet, and there's a Morse code key that you can buzz out loud or broadcast to the communicators. The Star Trek Command Communications Console. Communicators sold separately in pairs. From Mego.
Now, this product showcased a fascinating fusion of nostalgia and innovative play, making a notable episode in the history of merchandise linked to the Star Trek franchise. Inspired by the original Starship Enterprise's control panel, so they said, the communication console was a toy that successfully fused fiction with reality. It featured switches, buttons, dials, a viewing screen, a rotating dial, and a Morse code key, because we all know that children back then knew Morse code about as well as they do today. And just like the Star Trek communicator set that they released, the toy allowed young fans to immerse themselves in their Star Trek universe, emulate their favorite characters, and create their own cosmic convention. Now, as a side note to this, for those of you who might remember the 1970s, this will not be a surprise to you, but for our brethren that were born in later generations, they probably only have heard about it in rumors and urban legends. But in the mid-1970s, the American public had a love affair with Citizens Band radio. Millions of CBs were found in cars throughout the country at that point in time, and it pretty much evolved its popularity out of the trucking movement. If you really want to find out in a nutshell how crazy we were about Citizens Band radio, look for the movie Convoy. It'll give you a pretty good idea of what we were looking at back then. And just in case I made it really clear, because maybe I didn't, but the walkie-talkies and command console set that Mego offered interacted with industry standard walkie-talkies and console sets, so the kids could actually use them for more than just Star Trek. Even though Mego never released sales figures for any of the items that we are going to be looking at, the success of the line occurred because these toys came out at a time when the Star Trek phenomena was transitioning from a cult phenomena to an honest-to-God pop culture titan. Largely due to the syndication of the original series, this expanding fan base eagerly embraced the console as a symbol of their adoration of Star Trek, as well as anything else they could get their hands on. Sales, as a result, were robust through the mid-1970s, turning the console into a sought-after piece of merchandise. They made it from 1974 all the way into 1976, and its enduring presence on the vintage toy market that exists today. In pristine condition, this toy can fetch considerable amount of money from collectors due to its unique design, sophisticated features for its time, and nostalgic value. As such, the Star Trek Communications console represents an important piece of Star Trek's merchandise history. It rode the rising wave of Star Trek's popularity, and it remains a sought-after collectible, testifying to Mego's skill at merging technology with imagination in their toys. Beyond the sales performance, it stands as an artifact of 1970s pop culture, a tangible manifestation of the enduring allure of the Star Trek franchise. And as you may have suspected, just like they did with the communicators, in 1977, Mego released a version of the Command Communications console as a Batman accessory. Now this next one, you're going to recognize.
The Star Trek Super Phaser 2 target game uses one 9-volt and two penlight batteries, not included. It signals when you hit the target reflector badge. You can hang the target almost anywhere. Flash the phaser. It's a silent beam of light that signals when you score a hit on the target.
You missed! I hit it! I hit the target!
The Star Trek Super Phaser 2 target game includes phaser and target reflector badge from Mego.
Even if you didn't have one, it was on TV all the time. But a lot of people did have them. They were fairly inexpensive. And if you look at it from one perspective, it probably means that Mego invented laser tag probably about 30 years before most other people even thought about it. The Mego Star Trek Phaser 2 target game, a nostalgic piece from the past, continues to command the attention of toy enthusiasts and Star Trek fans around the globe. Introduced in the late 1970s by Mego Corporation, the game capitalized on the immense popularity of Star Trek, of course, or we wouldn't be talking about it, offering an interactive, hands-on way for the fans to step into the shoes once more of their favorite characters. The game was essentially a light gun packaged with a reflective target. The goal was to aim the phaser at the target, triggering them to make a sound when they hit. A simple but unbelievably satisfying interactive experience. People are still doing it today with laser tag. Like everything else, this game's launch coincided with the ongoing success of the original Star Trek television series and its spin-offs in the form of the cartoon. Now, over the years, the Phaser 2 target game has proven to be not just a child's toy, but a valuable collector's item. It was produced for a relatively short period, contributing to its rarity and increasing value in the terms of sales performance. The Phaser 2 target game outperformed many of Mego's Star Trek merchandise during its original production run. It achieved considerable success even though it was launched at a time when electronic games were just beginning to make their mark. Of course, Mego did not publicly share details concerning sales, but the game's popularity is evident in its continuous demand in the secondary market. Original sets in good condition fetch high prices, often into the hundreds of dollars. After Mego's unfortunate bankruptcy in 1982, the Phaser 2 Target game became more of a relic, a sought-after item for Star Trek memorabilia collectors. With the re-establishment of Mego in 2018, many fans hoped we would see a reissue of this particular game, yet as far as we've made it into 2023, no such luck. Next one is another Mego toy that we saw on television, but they were not distributed very widely, so some people were lucky enough to get them, and others were basically relegated just to watching TV.
I got the tape. Get the tricorder. Let's play it.
The Star Trek tricorder, 4C batteries not included, is a cassette tape recorder with a pre-recorded cassette of Star Trek voices. You can check the display screen, listen to the voices of Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, or turn the cassette over, press the record button, and tape your own adventures. The Star Trek tricorder with built-in microphone, window display screen, and pre-recorded tape. From Mego.
It actually shows Mego's unique genius in finding ways to make normal everyday objects interesting to children. So, in the mid-1970s, they launched a Star Trek tricorder toy that's been a pivotal part of the brand's success, signifying an enduring phenomenon in pop culture collectibles just like the rest. And with Mego's penchant for producing toys that walked the line between popular toys and Star Trek, the tricorder became a favorite among enthusiasts from Star Trek and collectors alike. Now, a critical eye can see this is really not much more than a standard cassette tape recorder, but it was marketed as a multifunction handheld device used for sensing, scanning, data analysis, and recording data. Now, Mego, in its innovative spirit, captured the essence of the tricorder's functions as it appeared in the original Star Trek series wherever they could. While it couldn't scan live life forms or analyze alien atmosphere, it did provide imaginative play for adults and children alike, which during its run made it one of the must-have items for fans. It was just a shame they didn't make more of them. The screen featured graphics that tried to emulate the tricorder's iconic readouts. Furthermore, it had a shoulder strap, making it easy to carry and play with. Along with the initial success of the Star Trek action figure line, Mego found that their tricorder quickly became a hit. Its success was largely fueled again on the popularity of Star Trek and the appeal of Mego's meticulous attention to detail from a child's point of view, elevating it way above a normal cassette recorder as a child's plaything. The original 1970s tricorder, if found in mint condition, is highly sought after in the collectible market and could fetch a considerable price, much to the delight of those lucky enough to own one. And as they did with the communicators and the command console, they released a Batman-branded version of this tricorder in 1977. Now, as you listen to this video, if you find yourself at some point being happy with what I'm telling you, please go ahead and hit that like button down below. It communicates to me and others what kind of materials you'd like to see going forward. By the same token, comment, comment, comment. We have an extraordinarily interactive community here at Trek World, and we love to talk to each other. So if you haven't introduced yourself, hop on in and please do so. Lastly, I would take the time to thank the patrons that support this channel with their donations. No matter how small, it is still a humbling thing to have people support you in what you do. So if you're interested, please consider becoming a patron subscriber by visiting us at patreon.trek-world.com. And take pride in the fact that after 6 decades, this channel clearly still shows people why Star Trek still lives.